I'm Cody Pasby, and you're watching the San Francisco Giants Fan Show on Fan Media Network. What's going on, everybody? Cody Pasby back with you on Fan Media Network for another season of the San Francisco Giants Fan Show. 107 wins a year ago. First round exit of the playoff. I was going to say, how do you top this? Well, you top it by actually making the World Series this time. 107 wins or not, who cares? A lot of work to be done for the Giants, and we're talking to Walter Icabalceta. You can hear him on Talkin Baseball with Marty Lurie all season long this year. Also host of Passion for the Pastime. That podcast available wherever you get podcasts. Walter, thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, man. Thanks. It's good to actually sit down and finally get to talk baseball. Opening day is right around the corner, man. So I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
I know there was a moment there where I thought we're just going to be talking about like labor deals and, deadlines and the CBTs. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm done with this, man. Like, I mean, it was a rough off season. I'm glad everything, the agreement was made. It looks like the players got a lot of things they wanted. So I think all in all, a good thing, but we can finally focus on the game itself. And for the Giants, this has been an off season where they have spent a lot of money. Which doesn't, I feel like if you look at the temperature of social media and you look at the temperature of Giants fans, I don't think that most people would tell you that this team went out and spent a lot of dough in the free agent market. I want to say they were like fifth or sixth highest spending team this offseason. But I think the lineup has been a concern. I know for me it has. I think I've been pretty vocal on social media and whatnot, saying I think that they still need another bat in this lineup. You haven't really replaced Buster Posey. Chris Bryant, I mean, he goes to the Rockies, didn't have an incredible second half, but I think there is some noticeable holes in this lineup compared to last year. It also feels like they kind of struck lightning in a bottle last year. So from your point of view, do you think Scott Harris and Farhan Zaidi did enough to replace those guys in the lineup this season?
Well, it's a very interesting question, right? I mean, did they do enough to really, because you look at the lineup that they had last year and you look at what they've lost with Buster Posey, mainly Buster Posey and Chris Bryant. Those are your number 3 and number 5 hole hitters essentially in that lineup. What hitters did they really bring in? I mean, Jock Peterson, that's not going to get a lot of people excited. And he's figuring to factor into a platoon situation. So it's going to be really interesting. Am I excited about, the moves that they made on offense? Not necessarily, but also you have to look at what they have coming up in the farm system. And I think that they are banking on Joey Bart having a phenomenal year. And, it's a lot to ask of him, right? He got drafted in 2018, 2019. He got that finger injury or wrist injury and put him out, set back his development. Then 2020 happened, and then they had to speed him up. And it was just it's been a really rocky, weird road for Joey Bart coming to the big leagues. But I think that his bat will always be there. I think that that's something that you can expect to see from Joey Bart going into this year and on. It is important for him to get off to a quick start because if he does struggle early, the confidence can diminish. And, I'm not saying that he isn't a confidence guy. He looks really confident. He looks like he actually has a lot of swagger that he carries on the field, just the way that he carries himself. But I think Joey Bart is going to be a huge piece to that team. And I just feel 107, it was a fantastic year last year, lightning in a bottle. But I feel like the Giants organization, Farhan and Scott Harris, I feel like they're still on the same plan. They haven't changed whether last year happened or not. They're still on the same trajectory. And that's with Elliot Ramos coming up. That's with Luciano right around the corner, and Joey Bart. So it's going to be a really interesting year, but that offense, the Giants, they go into so many matchups. That's how they play. They've changed the game of baseball, essentially. They play the matchup so well that I feel that they're going to be able to compete with anybody, righty lefty matchups and their splits. I think it's going to be really fun this year.
Yeah. To that point, like I was looking up some numbers because I saw, Justin Upton got cut by the Angels yesterday. So I thought, you know what? Is that the worst thing? Like, take a flyer on Justin Upton and looking at the stats against lefties, not bad, not bad at all. And then I look at the stats for Austin Slater against lefties. Like, no, he's a better option than Justin Upton. He just doesn't have that name brand, that name recognition that Upton does. So they clearly, like you said, I think you're on it, that I think as the names were flying off the board, it kind of just set in like these guys know what they're doing. There is a lot of confidence right now, and rightfully so for them, that I think fans should kind of give them a shot here. They seems like they've known what they're doing these last couple of years, and yeah, they're not gonna rock the ship too much just based off of if Freddie Freeman goes to the Dodgers, or now today Sean Manaea going to the Padres. But do you think if things aren't working, how quickly do you think they tinker with this lineup? I know we're seeing probably Luke Williams is going to get a lot of at-bats. Thairo Estrada is going to get a lot of at-bats. But how quickly do you think that they tinker with this thing if maybe things aren't working out, let's say 2, 3, 4 weeks into the season?
I think they're already tinkering. You know what I mean? Like they're already 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of the game. We're like with the DH, right? Everyone's like, "Oh, you need that power bat. Go get Nelson Cruz." Everyone was excited for all these power bats that were in free agency. Jorge Soler, Trevor Story, Chris Bryant, all these guys, and that's why I think that the Giants fans, as a whole, they saw all these guys available, and they're like, "Giants, you have the money. Go get them." But at the same time, they just didn't fit the mold necessarily, because that DH spot, I feel we're going to see like 5 different guys in that spot all year. Oh, yeah. And 5 might even be a low number. They're going to be switching in and out. Everybody is going to contribute. And that's the thing. When you look up and down this Giants lineup, it does leave a lot to be desired, honestly. And that's also because you're looking at what we have to deal with in the AL West or the NL West just as a whole. I mean, you look at that Dodger lineup, they could easily be one of the best offensive lineups in baseball history if everything goes right? So you look at that, you have to compete with that, and then we're throwing out freaking Mauricio Dubon and Jason Vossler and Thairo Estrada and all these guys. But I will say, we don't have the names, but we do have ball players. And I feel that I'd rather have a ball player than someone that everybody recognizes off the bat. Yes, that would be ideal, right? That would be ideal to have a Trevor Story or a Carlos Correa or someone in that lineup. But they have good ball players that are going to contribute. And I feel like they've already bought into that system that the Giants have, to where, hey, you got to be ready at all times. And I feel like that's what it's going to take. That's what it took last year. That's what it's going to take again, because they're going to play the matchups like no other. And just looking back at that coaching staff, they will not be unprepared for any situation. They will be they're the most prepared team when it goes into analytics and how they prepare for matchups and for pitchers and teams, just anything. All their preparation, I feel, is like that intangible that puts them above, say, not necessarily the Dodgers, but other teams that have on paper stacked lineups.
Yeah, and I think that's like the coaching part of it is such an X factor for this team. I think it's part of the reason why you saw I want to say the A's, but the Padres get Bob Melvin. Boy, they look like the A's right now with Manaea and Melvin there now.
I know. Yeah.
But they go and get a guy like him, who I think could stack up as a manager to guys like Gabe Kapler, Dave Roberts. And just speak one more thing about the lineup. Like, I was looking at the depth chart this morning and just thought, you know what? Like, just thinking positively and thinking, yeah, no, these lefty righty lineups, this works. This is what got them here last year. It still looks good right now. And Joey Bart has had a phenomenal spring. I think he looks like the real deal. There was a reason he was the highest drafted player since Will Clark in this franchise's history. The guy can hit. It's just a matter of, can he do it behind the plate? And I think even having like Logan Webb, who came up through the system with this guy, I'm going to be sure we'll have his back. There was a lot of confidence when he came up with Johnny Cueto having his confidence shaken, I think, a little bit, where you saw Cueto like visibly frustrated on the mound with Joey Bart. So he's not going to have that anymore. He's going to have a guy in his corner, and he's going to get all the at-bats he wants, or they're going to give him as much time as he needs until he's ready. But I do want to shift over to the pitching, because we talk about these lineups. There's a lot of good lineups in this division. I'll even throw in the Rockies now with Chris Bryant there. That they're always going to hit. And I do feel like the Giants are clearly trying to zig while everyone is zagging in this division. Yes, I know the Padres, just like I mentioned, got Manaea, and they have on paper, a stacked pitching staff. But I think starter for starter, I think the Giants are maybe the most balanced, or at least on par with the other rotations in this division. I think it's safe to say that the Giants right now are going with that 3-5 mentality of let's outpitch these guys. We know we can do that. That's what our ballpark is suited for. So let's do that. And, win the World Series that way and just score just enough runs. So it feels like right now they have totally bought into the pitching. And right now, I think the way guys are throwing, I don't see any reason why this can't work,
Well, and unfortunately, that's the Giants know their strength, right? And it's always been pitching, like you just mentioned, the 3-5. What was the strength of that team? It's pitching. And pitching, for me, if you have a strong pitching staff, and that's including the rotation and that's including the bullpen, you're going to go deep in October. You see time and time again that it's always about timely hitting. So you don't even need that big superstar guy in the lineup, right? You just need timely hitting. And if pitching can get you there, which it's been proven that it does get you there most of the time, that's what the Giants have. They are so deep when you look at their starting pitchers with Logan Webb, which a lot of people are questioning whether Logan Webb is ready to take on that ace title, right? Because he had a phenomenal last stretch of the season where he was virtually the best pitcher in all of baseball, not even just in the division.
Yeah, after the two starts in LA against LA in the playoffs, I don't know how you can't think
Right. Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting to follow that development. And then you bring in Carlos Rodon, right, from Chicago. He has a lot of question marks, mainly due to his health. But when healthy, he is going to be very effective. And I feel if the Giants, and the thing with the Giants, if they have such a deep rotation, 1-5, and other guys that can come in and spot start as well, that they'll be able to keep Alex Wood and Descalfani and Alex Cobb and Rodon. They'll keep them fresh, so they'll be able to go a full 162. I remember back, when we first got into the offseason, Farhan was saying we want to construct a pitching staff that is going to not only pitch every fifth day, we want guys that are going to contribute 162. So that is huge, and I love to hear that, because you look back at the World Series championships, you look at those banners right behind you. That's what the Giants did so well, so effectively. And yeah, I feel like their arms can go toe to toe with anybody in the league. I think MLB.com, they just put out a ranking system, and everybody likes to do lists, right? And lists, I think, are just it's whatever. It's whoever's writing it. That's what the list is. But it was interesting that they put the Giants sixth, and sixth out of all of Major League Baseball, and it was pretty much third in the National League, behind the Brewers, which the Brewers got arms too, man. And I'm picking them in the NL Central to win in that division. I love the Cardinals. I think they have a lot of things going for them, especially with all those. I mean, how many Gold Gloves did they get last year? It was like damn near the whole team.
Wild,
so, yeah. So it was pretty crazy. But I'm sticking with the Brewers in that because of their pitching staff. And then they also had the New York Mets, and I'm not really sold on the Mets. They do have the depth, but with DeGrom being out, and who knows how long he's going to be out for.
Yeah, and maybe Scherzer as well. Yeah,
and Scherzer as well. So I hope not, because I just picked up Scherzer in my fantasy team.
Oh yeah.
So let's hope he can go.
I hope for your sake he's okay.
yeah. But and I mentioned them with those two staffs. I think they're right behind them. I think that they're the best staff in the National League West, definitely, with the Dodgers right behind them. And then, you mentioned the Padres. They have a good staff on paper, but we'll see. I'm not sold on the Padres either.
Yeah, no, I'm not either, especially after last season. It's hard to, and as a team, they don't have Tatis for a long time. Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, these guys are big names, but they didn't pitch particularly well
They
during.
underperformed.
Yeah. So there's a lot of question marks there. You're right. And Clayton Kershaw is not the ace of the staff anymore, but there's a ton of great talent there. But yeah, just from 1 through 5, it's easy to really get excited about that staff. And I think it was Grant Brisbee wrote in The Athletic, and I think broke it down really well, that you're going to get a lot of innings. Like you're going to get maybe 180 innings or 160 innings out of Logan Webb. You get 140 out of Rodon. You get, and then you make up those innings with guys like Jacob Eunice. You get Sammy Long. All these guys make up those innings, which is definitely the way this. I think if there's one thing we've learned in the Farhan Zaidi era, is they really love to have that depth. I know Kervin Castro and Eunice got sent down today, but I saw that and it was like, oh, they're going to be up, in 3 weeks, or like they just have them in reserve, ready to go. These guys will have their moment at any time. So it just speaks to how they build this roster. And I think it's going to pay off for this team for sure. So let's end it with this. I mentioned it. They caught lightning in a bottle last year. I think there's going to be a couple of guys destined to regress this year, unfortunately.
Oh, sure.
But so give me a player that you think drops off a little bit, but then also give me a player that you think is maybe going to have a breakout year for this team.
Drop off. Unfortunately, I have to go with Brandon Crawford. I mean, he's phenomenal, right? He's amazing. But he's going into year 34, going to turn 35 this year. So for someone that I believe he played the most games out of the staff or out of the team last year. So, it's bound to happen. Father Time is going to catch up with someone. And I feel like the demand of that position, it may cause him to regress a little bit. And maybe he might be pressing because he doesn't have the protection as he once did with Buster Posey there. So, Brandon Crawford has always hit down in the bottom of the lineup, 6-7 hole, but now he might be asked to hit in the 3 spot. So it's going to be it's going to be an adjustment, right? And a big adjustment at the age of 35. So I feel like he'll drop off a little bit. I'm not saying that he's going to be, this terrible shortstop and they made a bad decision on giving him the extension. I think he'll be serviceable. But that's where Tyro Estrada is going to come in, and Mauricio Dubon, he's going to contribute somehow if he makes the roster at some point. But they're going to be relying on guys like that, Jason Vossler, Alex Blandino. I mean, you hear all these guys' names and you're like, who are these people? But they're good ball players. They maybe even Brett Arbach. He plays every pitch or every position other than pitcher. I think he even plays catcher. So Brandon Crawford would be my guy that regresses. The breakout star, I'm going back to how we started the conversation, is with Joey Bart. I do feel that he is going to provide a spark offensively, and a lot of people look back at that 2020 spot. He just wasn't ready. He wasn't ready for that moment, because you think back, he was drafted in 2018, and then he was injured in 2019, and he came back into 2020. The year was just so weird, right? With the pandemic. And then now, hey, Busher's not playing, so you got to get the call to the big leagues. I think that it was just so unfair for Joey Bart to be judged on that tiny sample. But you look at what he did last year in AAA, and I think that that's going to carry over. The question is, though, as you mentioned, is he going to, and I'm not worried about the bat at all. I think the bat is going to be phenomenal. But the question is, and from what I'm just, I'm concerned about, is how he manages the pitching staff. But I think that he is put in a position to succeed. I feel like the Giants organization, the coaches are going to put him in a position to succeed. And Kirk Casale, the Giants were like 42-13 when he was behind the dish last year. So someone, I would say that's a good person to learn from, especially being that this is going to be essentially his rookie year. I mean, you look at 2020, yeah, okay, but this is essentially his rookie year. And I feel like he's going to swing the bat well, but the question is, can he command the pitching staff? But it's also encouraging to hear guys like Carlos Rodon, because it doesn't sound like he's going to be catching Logan Webb. That might be a Casale start. But to hear guys like Discofani and Webb and Rodon just speaking to the confidence that they have in throwing to him, I think that's going to be huge.
Yeah, it's now or never really for Joey Bart. I tend to agree. I think he's going to be a really good player. You just see it this spring, and I know it's spring, but he just looks different. Even when he called up for a couple games last year, there was a notable difference with the way he carried himself, the way he looked at the plate. There was just a confidence he had that he didn't have in 2020 for obvious reasons.
He felt like he belonged. Is essentially what it was, and that's huge for a player.
Exactly. There's not the feeling of like he's taking over Buster Posey when they had to let him go or trade him or not re-sign him. It's a nice like easy way to come in. Like Posey has handed the reins over to him. So I think he's in a good spot here. I will say Tyro Estrada for me is a guy I'm watching.
I'm excited for him. Yeah.
He looked really good last year, and it just felt like get this guy more at bats. He's going to get more at bats now. If there's a guy I feel like might regress, it's Lamont Wade. I love the guy. He slowed down at the second half last year or in the last month last year, getting injured to start the season. Not a great start for him, but I hope I'm proven wrong because I love me some late night Lamont.
Oh yeah.
Real quick one on the way out. 6 teams making the playoffs this year. Simple as this. Are the Giants one of the 6 best teams in the National League?
Oh yeah, without question. They're going to get into the playoffs. They won't get in by the division, which that would be ideal, right? They're not going to win 107 games. Let's just be honest. They're not going to win 107 games. I kind of have them at the 87 to 89 range. Which I think is still decent. I mean, you look at that. Wow, you're having them drop 20 games from last year. Well, last year was last year. It's a whole different ball game now. But I do feel like they get into the postseason, and we'll see what the matchups entail. But man, I'm ready for more Giants Dodgers. Man, I need that in the NLCS. I need that NLCS. 7 games.
Yeah,
7 games all week.
Need to exercise those demons after last year.
Man, yeah.
We need, what we need. Unfortunately, Max Scherzer not on the. Well, maybe actually, fortunately, but it would have in a way been nice to get Max Scherzer back on the Dodgers. Wilbur Flores up there. Let's get a nice clean bat.
Let's get a redo. All right?
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, Walter, thanks so much for joining me. Of course, you can hear him talking baseball with Marty Lurie. He'll be contributing all season long. And check out his podcast, Passion for the Pastime. Walter, thanks for hanging out with me.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
To host a fan show or appear as a fan on a fan show, create a profile in Fan Media Network. Then look for the news page in our website and fan show resources page. Help yourself. We give show hosts a show graphic and team colors, a simple short show format, tips on pre- and post-production, ideas to get fans and guests on your show, Apple News distribution and show sponsorship sales and services to help featured show hosts earn money. Show hosts use our iPhone app to publish their shows. Our website supports Android users.